I start streaming. So now we're live now to the world, right? So then all I do is I come over here, take that off, transition it, and now we're actually like live. So that's what the world is seeing right there.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So
pretty good.
Yeah. So thanks for coming on. For folks that are going to be confused watching this, because we just kind of posted on social media, everybody knows I'm looking for a co-host, and so Luis, whatever you want to call him, because that's what he says, is the first one to come on doing this trial. So we met and figured just to hell with it, let's just do it. So you can join in on the chat if you want. As always, you can tweet me and do that kind of stuff. Like I ever pay attention anyway. But we'll see. I'll do my best to check the chats. We'll do it that way. So welcome on, man.
Perfect, man. Thanks for having me. Like I said, I've been following you for a while, so this is my second time doing like a podcast radio thing.
Since Ripped Academy. Holy crap.
Yeah,
dude.
man. It's definitely learned a lot. That's the biggest thing. And like I said, I'm always open to learning. So when I seen this opportunity, I jumped on it right away.
Yeah. And what'd you do? Because you did radio. Was it podcast or radio before? What was
they did both, UHD
Okay.
radio. Yeah, so they do weekly. They reach out to people like giving information on like nutrition, lifestyle, fitness, health. So I was training one of the girls that was on the show.
Okay.
So she's the one that she got me in there, and then I did that. And now pretty much they want to bring me on again, and they want to bring some of our trainers on. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
So it was like, so everybody knows me. So I'm like the turd that thinks he knows everything kind of guy, right? But I hate to, this just sucks so bad. This is so cliche, but like kind of what's like your 2 cent backstory?
My 2 cent backstory, like 2 minutes or less.
All right, 2 cents. Whatever.
2 cents. All right, cool.
I don't know what that means. 2 cents.
So pretty much I'm born and raised here in Houston. Grew up with a single mother. Dad passed when I was young. So 2 other brothers, one older, one younger. So definitely a strong mother, strong household. So it taught me good values and morals. And as far as like work ethic, she took no excuses. So I have that mentality. The people that work with me know that. So I'm kind of get the job done. So I played sports in high school, played baseball, ran into some injuries. That's kind of what got me into learning more about fitness, and mainly for myself, to educate myself. And then from there, just started learning more for myself, went to college, went to University of Houston. After that, got into the pretty much self-employment route, health and fitness. And really been doing that since 2009. And got 3 kids, my son 8, my daughter about to be 2, my youngest about 4 months. So definitely hands are busy. Yeah. But everything's cool, man. I'm definitely blessed. I'm healthy. Yeah. That's the biggest thing.
And that's the big, and then that's one of the big lead-ins is that so many times. I think the number one way to get into the fitness industry as far as the training side or nutrition, like the training, coaching, instructing, mentoring side of things, is to be a failed athlete. And failed athlete doesn't mean it's your fault. It could be injury. It could be wrong place, wrong time. I mean, the politics, all that kind of crap. But
man, I think you made a good point on that. I think the biggest thing is kind of like failing forces you to learn more. Yeah. So it's kind of like, I had those experiences, with injuries and, but a lot of it was on me because I didn't know how to take care of myself a certain way.
Well, and injuries are probably the biggest catalyst because you're forced to learn the rehab along.
Exactly.
So many times, non-professional athletes, if you're not in one of the big 5, right? The NBA and football and baseball and hockey and so on and so forth. If you're not in one of those, then you usually are kind of kicked to the curb. So if you want to get better, you got to figure that shit out. You're like, you got to do your research. You got to know what's going on.
Yeah, man. And now it's pretty cool nowadays because it's like back then as far as like the whole strength and conditioning, not too many like coaches in high schools. Like it sounds bad, but really knew what they were doing. They're kind of just
back then. I mean, like, what about now?
I agree now.
There's a couple of the bigger high schools that will actually hire in strength coaches to come in. And that doesn't necessarily mean they know what they're doing. Because I've met a few of them. It's still good old boy system.
Yeah.
It's some kid. Usually this is, I'm going to get killed. I'll get murdered for this. But it's like little Johnny played for high school ABC and was really good and didn't quite get his chance in college. So he all of a sudden is now the strength coach of high school ABC because of the head coach and the AD. They stay for ages. You know what I'm saying? So they recycle through. So take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
Strength
and
coach
that
at
goes
high
back
school.
to like the coaching, being able to hire. It goes
Yeah.
back to like the budgeting, what
Yeah.
what schools can afford what, and
Yeah.
so my school was like it was an inner city school. It wasn't
Yeah.
a high budget school, so but there's a lot of schools like that. So it's definitely I do agree with you on that. It's a lot of the
Yeah.
coaches really it's kind of yeah, they come out of the just getting their 4-year degree, and then they kind of like thrown in there. And I'm a big believer in experience is definitely needed as far as like following other proper coaching and so forth. And there's a lot of big schools, but I don't want to go too far into that. But yeah, man, definitely failed athletes that couldn't reach their the full potential. So they want to get their mental strength stronger and help other people do the same thing. And then as far as with coaching as well, kind of different aspects, become teachers. It's another form of coaching, but it's in a classroom. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
and that's and I think these change all the time because I did some coaching and things back at some private schools,
cool.
as well at university level. But at the private schools, we weren't required to be a teacher as well. We could. I mean, I did teach, but it wasn't a requirement. I think in the public schools you're required, right?
Yeah, you're required to.
Okay.
Yeah, I know for sure. High schools you do. I know middle schools. I think you can kind of like.
Play.
I've seen some coaches where they taught in a middle school, but since they were already in like the HISD system, they were able to coach for a high school, even though they didn't teach for that high school.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So there's some level of that back and forth, but you can.
Yeah, there's a little bit of flexibility, but yeah.
Man, yeah. So that leads me. to this. So you touched on it when we were meeting the other day, right? You touched on this is like I'll just say certifications and things like that.
Yeah.
That has been an issue globally because I've been around the world.
Yeah.
And yeah. But anyway, certification is a problem in every country across the globe.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
As far as like what's legit, what's not, what's this stuff, and I'm gonna lead this. I'm gonna say this. So many people post, guru this, coach this, slam this. People are getting put into the hospital. Cut all sodium when you're trying to perform and all this crazy bullshit from a competitive standpoint. And I'm not talking just bodybuilding, fitness, figure. I'm talking even from athletic performance. Like they're trying to get people. I mean, I was watching people coach people to go through the combines and team workouts and things like this, doing the same stupid shit that the physique coaches and stuff that are doing.
Yeah.
That makes it diet.
Man, that makes
killing them.
Yeah.
So with all of that kind of laid out, so that's people kind of have a little bit of backstory. You're kind of like, you know what? We touched on it. How do we legitimize this kind of stuff? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so my quick 2 cents on it is my fear is, yes, let me put it this way. Yes, it needs to be, I think there needs to be some standardization.
Yeah.
There needs to be some body making sure, I don't want to say government body, but some body of people that can oversee what's going on in the world of fitness and nutrition. Here's the problem. Who gets to establish the rules, and then who monitors and enforces whatever those rules are?
Yeah.
Because do you have a bunch of yoga and triathletes? Is Ironman the standard? Is Pilates the standard? Strength training the standard? CrossFit the standard? Traditional just strength lifting the standard? Powerlifting the standard? What's the standard?
I feel like with that, I think it would have to be multiple people. I think it would have to be more like a board of like the top educated or, in certain areas. Cause like exactly like a CrossFit athlete is going to be trained differently from an NFL athlete, trained differently from a marathon runner and so forth. So I definitely agree on that. One of the things that, you mentioned about like the certification is, that I mean I don't know about like around the world, just from what I've seen like here in the States and in Texas.
It's the same. Yeah.
It's a business now.
Yeah.
Education's a business now, where it's like they make something. I remember when I got certified, that there was really the top known certifications was like NASM, ACE, ACSM, and now there's hundreds of certifications. You take a 2-hour class online, and then now you're an expert. Yeah. So it's all turning into a business.
To me, that's dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Dangerous because it's like you can't do it. But I'll say this: is I know people that 4 or 5 years into it, so they're babies into it, right?
Yeah.
Never had a certification, but they've just got it. They understand the body, they understand what's going on, and they can teach that like people who've been doing it 30, 40 years can't. Right. So it's sort of like those people are falling through the cracks. There's not many. There's not many.
Yeah.
But then you get people that I'm a master trainer through an ASM. I'm like, I watch you and you don't know crap.
Yeah. It's an ego thing. It's a
Yeah.
pride thing. It's a way for people to give themselves a title like, hey, look at me.
Yeah.
Type of thing. But yeah, I think with even some people that aren't certified that are, how do I say it, better educated, but not in a formal sense. I would say they had one of two things, or at least two things. They had experience, so they've actually lived through it.
Yeah.
So it's more than just what they read in a book.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
two, they probably had some mentorship of someone else that's gone through it.
True.
Experience as well, or both.
Could have been friend, teacher, coach, brother, said who knows. Somebody above them was a impact on them as far as teaching. Yeah.
Yeah. And like one thing I was looking at was like I follow like Deion Sanders on Instagram. Obviously, he's lived to be the athlete he is, but he's also coaching his son. So will his son be a top athlete? Yeah, because he's learning from someone that's experienced.
He'll have all the opportunity to be.
Oh yeah, the opportunity, and
So
there's really not a lot of, when it comes to even his own training himself, there's not a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, the anatomy is the same for all of us. Maybe the height and
things change. I mean, everybody's a little different, but yeah, I mean,
the gist of it's the same.
Yeah.
And then another thing was like the miscoaching you talked about,
where
it's like I think you said like a certain athlete was being trained like someone else, and like I was talking to a friend of a family member, and she played first year in college softball, and she's telling about the workouts she's doing, and she's following the same workouts that the football team of that college is following, and it makes zero sense because she's any type of throwing motion overhead, you shouldn't be doing a lot of heavy pressing. That's just knowing the mechanics. We know that, but these are college athletes, so it's kind of wondering like, okay, why are these college athletes being injured a lot? Is it them not recovering, or is it mistraining? Is it something they can control? And so
it's a mess, dude. And that's kind of what I wanted to bring, because there is no easy answer to it, which is why I like to throw that on, because there isn't an answer. And there's absolutely no way if we sat here for 15 hours would have the answer. Right. Does that make sense? But I like the discussion of it, because at some point in time, it's going to have to get there.
Yeah.
Because there was a time, this was, man, I was on leave here and I watched it. I'm going to say mid 90s.
Okay.
Right. So let's give a little bit. Mid 90s, it almost happened in the state of Texas. So a lot of the people that put together the standards for massage and things of that nature were doing this for personal training, right? Certifications and things of that nature. And I was watching it and I was irritated, because I was like, okay, it was a bunch of older people who didn't understand the scope of the industry. And now you got to remember, mid 90s, there was no CrossFit. It was a much smaller industry. And so these are the troubles they had then, is they said, they were like, well, you have to, a certification, you've got to go through 6 months of training for your most basic certification. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But what if you have a doctorate? Nope.
True.
You have to go through 6 months of education before you can have a base certification. You're like, wait a second. So a 6-month certification is required for someone who's 18 out of high school and someone who has a doctorate in a related field. And I mean, don't tell me like
I have something to touch on that, but I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
So I was just like, instantly, I was just like, oh man. So I was, again, I was on leave. So I'm trying to feed people that I knew that were a part of this. And back in the day, I used to do a lot with Bill Phillips and EAS and things before I started doing stuff with Optimum. So I knew it was before 97. So that's how I kind of related that. So I'm feeding things through, and it wasn't just Texas. There was a lot of states going on, but I'll focus Texas. And I was just like, that can't be the case. How are you going to give somebody a license on a 6-month certification and not someone who has a PhD or graduate degree or even an undergrad degree in a related field, exercise sciences? Like, you're going to make that person go re-educate themselves?
Exactly.
And then they were pushing, RDA standards and USDA standards as far as nutrition. And you're like, no. Even in the mid-90s, we knew high-end athletes needed more than, at that time, it was 75 grams of protein a day was the cap. So if you ever educated above that and they could prove it, you could have your license stripped.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, hold on. Who's doing this?
Yeah.
And it was real, like their nutrition standards were real carb heavy because there were a lot of triathletes in there. A lot of stuff was going through Austin, so you got to remember that Austin is big on running and biking and all that kind of stuff. There were a lot of people in Austin that were putting this stuff together. And so now everything since then that's been done really mirrors that.
Yeah.
Just fucking crazy.
When you were mentioning back in like the 90s, one thing I didn't even mention when we first kind of got on this was like the different perspectives from like generation difference.
Yeah.
So you said before 97, I think I was probably like 6 years old.
Yeah.
At that time. So
fitness would run to the fridge.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool to kind of like, hearing you, but I talked to someone literally a year ago. That hasn't changed.
No.
Because it's someone else I went to, U of H with. They had a kinesiology degree. They went into a big box gym and they said the same thing. Even though you have a bachelor's in exercise science, you still got to get a certification.
Right.
Same as the guy that maybe just out of high school, whatever it is. So that's confusing too. I mean, that's something it logically doesn't make sense.
No.
I mean, you agree with that.
You're saying an advanced education is less superior than a current certification, which most are like 6 weeks.
Yeah, and I think it just all goes back to it forces people to do something.
Yeah.
And that's what turns into a business. If you force people to purchase something, it's just it
seems disingenuous.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the things you were talking about too is on the nutrition standards and so forth. Just the education on that, like the science of nutrition is still very new.
Yes.
So it's like,
and now we know over the last few years that there's been a bunch of bullshit too.
Yeah,
the lot. Sugar studies, cholesterol studies, all these things
and it's crazy. It's crazy because it's like same thing. I was in school, I'm paying to take this nutrition course and I'm learning and so forth. And I'm learning this and I'm learning sports nutrition and nutrient timing. But what I'm reading from on the Ripped Academy, when I was reading, and or from other people on different forums of professional athletes of what they're doing compared to what I'm reading in a book is they're two ends of the spectrum. So it's very confusing. And
you're
so
like, what's true?
What's true? Is it the university or is it the professional?
Yeah.
Or is it the professional that's actually living it?
Yeah.
So it's kind of makes you question a lot. And then not only that, but these textbooks were written a decade ago. A lot of new science happened in 10
That's
years.
what people don't understand. That's a good point, is because when you are reading a textbook, okay, it takes we do it backwards, right? So let's just say it's 2018. This textbook was approved probably 3 years ago. Okay, so 2015, right? Which means it was probably published 2 years before that, realistically, to be able to get to the point of being approved.
Sure.
So now you're going 5 years ago. So now we're at 2013, right? Now that book was most doctorate degrees and things. So the doctor that wrote that, the specialist that wrote that, spent at least 5 years writing it.
Sure.
Okay, so now we're at 2010. And now when he started doing all this stuff, the research already had to be done and approved when he started writing it. For the most part. Don't kill me. I understand, guys.
And
so you're looking
you know this because you're a doctor. You have experience on, how research is done.
Right.
And
so you're saying a textbook you're reading today that's brand new in 2018 is based on 2000 science.
Yeah.
Okay, what have we learned in the last 18 years? Realistically, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people get screwed up. They're like, it's a brand new textbook I'm doing this semester. Yeah. This is what it says. It's got to be right. You're like, no, it doesn't have anything to do with all the stuff about the American Heart Association bullshit studies that they paid for, cholesterol studies that were bullshit that they were, paid for by the government, the sugar studies that we all know now that are crap. All of this stuff that are just like, it's crap. So it's almost to the point that textbooks you got to stop. You got to stop.
And that's kind of something where I had texted you about this. Was it a day or two ago? We were talking about like different topics and things like that, and I had asked this question, and then following it up, I was like, "Is that too sensitive, or am I going too deep, or no?" So going back to as far as education system or textbooks or whatever it is, it's in there. It's not teaching us, like I said, how to learn, but what to learn, and it's not only what to learn, but are we learning what's true? Are we learning what's in the best interest for the American Heart Association and so forth? And it's how do I say it? It's definitely it's good we have social media, because now we can let more people know a lot faster. Okay, hey, like what's really going on, instead of having to learn through it and make all the mistakes, and it's 10, 15 years later, and then you're like, all right, I'm 35, 40, 45 and I've been believing this when it's not true. Yeah.
And that's there's like if you just wrench it up.
Okay. Is that good right there? Yeah. All right. Because I talk a lot with my hands.
No, I was jerking. Well, I was jerking with it earlier, and then I was like, "Oh, I need to tighten that," and then I forgot.
I'm messing with the microphone because this is audio, so you're wondering what we're talking about.
Juggling. Oh yeah, because when it goes to audio, people are like, "What the hell? Tighten what?"
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know. But so that kind of goes into some of the stuff as far as I'm gonna go a little political on you.
Okay.
If a bunch of fitness experts, fitness, strength, nutrition experts, can't figure out how to create a committee for oversight for their own industry, how much do you think, in regards to governmental, should be overseeing specific things like this? Does that make sense? So you have the government overseeing. I'm going to go smaller things.
Okay.
Real estate stuff, right?
Okay.
So there needs to be some laws and things. Of course, you have them overseeing massage. Okay. Well, yes, you need laws because the happy ending scenarios and things. You're right. There's some dirty shit that goes on there. And then, but even in sports and things, so you had Congress doing committees on the NFL and those investigations.
Yeah, that happened a lot recently.
Right. And then even the concussion stuff maybe is a little different because that's a new thing we don't really know about. But kind of jumping around and doing those things it's how much should the government be involved in specific matters like that? You think they should, or is it
I don't think they should.
Yeah.
I think this is what happens, and you definitely tell me what you think about this. I feel like, because first when you asked the question, you said, what happens if the professionals can't come to a committee? So first, just on the word like can't, and like my 8-year-old son knows, like I don't like that word. It's
I hate it. Yeah.
Try, let's figure it out, let's learn. So like when you say can't, it's like it may take time to figure it out to where multiple people can come to an agreement, and we know that takes a while, but it could be done.
Yeah.
But I feel like the only time the government would jump in or would have to jump in is because those professionals haven't figured it out yet. So something has to happen. So it's almost like, hey, you figure it out, you have a timeline. If you don't figure it out, we're going to handle it.
Oh, could you imagine if the government set the standards for the fitness industry?
Oh man. Yeah,
they got bigger fish to fry, but I mean, could you even imagine like how screwed up that would be?
It'd be dangerous. And it would lead to, I mean, we already know the overweight and obesity population, it keeps increasing, as far as the population of people that have, really, any type of illnesses that are onset from bad habits that we're not educated about in school. And so it's like, it's cutting people's lifespan shorter. And then we're going to touch into something else. Then it has people educated or convinced to depend on pharmaceutical industry.
Right.
And so now we're kind of jumping into something else, and
it just keeps churning and churning and churning, man.
Yeah. It's like it keeps the more I feel like the more people put the less accountability and responsibility they have on educating themselves, and then when they put all the energy on someone else, and you expect to live the way they want you to live because you're not figuring it out for yourself.
And I'm like, the government's the one that put the cholesterol standards and the sugar standards, and they're the ones that did all this kind of crap. And you're like, are you serious? They put the food pyramid, the food plate, all these other things that have been out, and that's what you get when the government does it.
Yeah, and I used to follow that, and I'm one of those people. Like, I'll be honest, man. When I exactly, because that happened to me. I started learning a little more about like nutrition, and obviously, the food pyramid, and I'm like, man, that's a lot of food, and it's like I'm trying to control my weight as an athlete so I can be, still quick and fast. I don't want to put too much weight on, but then this pyramid over here is saying I got to eat all of this food, and then it's where you're following this. You feel like crap. You're not listening to your body, which your body knows best.
Oh, absolutely.
So you're listening to this. So it's kind of like, okay. But then it just goes back to like miseducation. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Unless someone points it out.
And then when you have all these standards pressed on you through traditional education, which I hate.
Me too.
There's no way for me to express that in any short form. I dislike public education massively. So I'll leave it at that. So when you get all this food stuff in, you could do this. it would be safe to say no human, period, needs highly refined carbohydrates.
I agree.
But that's 80% of every store.
It goes back to being a business. I mean, it's
Right.
Sugar is a drug.
Yeah.
People get addicted to it.
And we've shown that. I mean, there's too many, assloads of studies on showing all that kind of stuff. So it's amazing that as much. This is a hard thing for me. So you help me with this because I want to try to get some information out to people who don't know. Because for me, explaining this about nutrition and carbohydrates, things of that nature, is like me trying to explain 1 + 1 to a child who doesn't understand math. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Because I'm thinking up here, I don't know how to get to the base level.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense? Because it's like, well, what's a refined carbohydrate? Basically anything that's been, I didn't want to use the word processed because processing also encompasses, if you just chop meat up, like literally if I go shoot a deer, chop meat up, wrap it, and I make it for store sale, I've processed it. Okay,
Correct.
so
it's not in its natural form.
Right. So it's hard to even say processed carbohydrates.
Okay.
So it's like highly refined. Okay, well, what's highly refined? Okay, well, definitely your table sugars, flour, enriched, bleached enriched flours, basically anything that doesn't come in whole form. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So,
and I think it's like, I think you just still like teach and get your point across. It's just more of like, and this is something where from, people that have helped me as far as like mentoring with coaching or training or just teaching in general is, man, you got to keep it as, if a first grader can understand it, the population can understand it. And it sounds kind of bad, but we got to dumb things down. And it's not that like, I obviously don't know everything, but we got to keep things very simple. I use like analogies a lot, or I use comparisons a lot when I teach. If it's one of my kids, if it's a client, if it's someone that I'm working with, if it's whatever, any type of lesson I'm trying to teach, I always give a story attached to it so it's understandable, or I'll compare it to something else. So like I'll compare it to the way a vehicle runs. If you want to, like the simple. You want a high-performing vehicle, you put high-performance fuel in it. You're not going to put crap into it. Yeah. So it's the same way. If you want your body to run optimally, you're not going to put, junk into it. Because you put junk into it, you're going to feel sluggish, tired.
And that's where a lot of people get confused is they'll say, okay, well, especially take me when I was competing, right? So during those years, people would see me post something where I'm eating pasta, or I'm eating pizza, or I'm eating some, chips and nachos were my big thing, and all this kind of stuff. And they're like, well, how can you eat that and look like that, but you preach don't ever have it, and there's no reason to. And it was kind of like, just to cover the bases on this, if you eat properly, right, in quotations, 99% of the time,
exactly,
your body's not going to notice those 1, 2, 3, 4% of the time that you have some crazy shit. It's not going to care. It's going to bounce back. It's really not going to recognize it, and you're fine. And that's where things like, yeah, sure, occasional alcohol's fine. Yeah, sure, an occasional dessert is fine. Yeah, sure, an occasional these things are fine, assuming all the rest of your stuff is right.
Exactly. It's the whole, I wouldn't even say 80-20 rule. It would have to definitely be more than 80. But like, for example, from the person that asked you that question, and I'm really big on like math. I run numbers a lot. How many meals on average, meals/snacks do you eat a day?
3 to 6, 7.
Okay, let's say 5. Let's just do the math easy. Yeah, so you're having on average over 1,800 meals a year. So if you have one bad meal a week, you're having
52.
52 out of over 1,800. It's not a big deal.
No.
But it's whenever it's flipped, where you're only having 52 good meals out of 1,800. Yeah.
And where a lot of people screw up, trying not to get too advanced on some of the basic stuff, we are learning over the last 5 to 10 years how important your gut biome is to your psychological health, to your inflammation, to how you digest, to even having false Crohn's, false mimicking of gluten sensitivity, false lactose sensitivity, all these things because of how your gut biome is, right? All the bugs in your gut and your stomach and intestines and things, that it makes sense. So it's even when people are trying to do good, they go through and they'll have a lean sandwich, right? Yeah. With real meat and with real everything on it, but it's got that bread, right? Then what they'll do is they'll have some tea and they'll put several artificial sweeteners in it.
Okay.
Well, what they don't know is all those artificial sweeteners are telling a certain percentage of your gut biome to advance to the stomach from the intestines into the stomach. I'm keeping it as simple as possible. So then what happens is now they're in a different environment, right? And they now, by being in a different environment, now they're affecting the acidity and the lining of your stomach. And there's certain foods that aren't getting to your intestinal tract for absorption. So now you're starting to get malnourished, which is going to induce cravings. And because
Correct.
it's not in the right spot, you have, let's call it 5 to 10% inflammation evenly spread throughout your body.
Yep.
Now you think you have allergies. Now you think you have headaches. Now you think you have this. So what do? You dump allergy meds on it. You dump some ibuprofen or some aspirin. You start dumping all these other things, which it's proven that if you take those consistently, I think consistently is defined as 3 or 4 out of 7 days a week.
Okay.
I'll just put that. If you take those consistently, you actually increase your inflammation.
Yeah.
So now you're taking something you think is supposed to decrease it. Now it's increasing it. Now your back hurts. Now your knee hurts. Now you don't work out as much. Now you're a little more depressed. Now you eat something else that's a little worse, which now you're screwing up your microbiome more. Anyway, so as you can see where that goes.
It starts small, but it's that domino effect.
Yeah.
It can turn, and that goes back to the education part about it. But I definitely agree with everything you're saying, and it's on the gut health, as far as, with, inflammation and so forth. And I went to something called the 10X Growth Con back in February in Vegas. And so there was a lot of different like business owners and entrepreneurs. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that was one of the speakers. I believe his company is called Viome.
There is a Viome company, yes.
I believe that's who the owner is. Don't quote me on this, but I believe that was him. But he was speaking on it, how they're doing tons and tons of studies on, and this is research, and even look at other people's research as far as how a lot of these major diseases start from the gut. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like me, I'm not a doctor. You, I mean, obviously you know a lot more than me, but you can agree that it's controlling. It's not only just controlling what you eat for, the way you look and the way how mobile you can be, but it's keeping you healthier longer, living longer, and it affects everything from, like you were saying, like depression, the way you think. It all starts from the gut. Yeah. The way you feel, joint pains. People think that, oh, I can't work out because it was a tough workout. Like, no, you're getting swelling in your joints because of this and this and this, what you did the past 3 years. And so it's, definitely education on nutrition, keeping it simple as far as like, and this is what I preach is, if you should eat foods that, if you eat something and you feel sleepy right after, that's a good sign that your body's working way too hard. Yeah.
It doesn't like something.
Exactly.
That you ate.
And the whole listen to your body thing.
Yeah.
And I learned this back from, one of my Little League baseball coaches. He told me, like, if your arm hurts, elbow hurts, listen to your body, pull back a little bit. Yeah. We can work on it, but don't injure yourself. So if you feel sleepy, and then 2, if you feel bloated or indigestion and things like that, there's, a digestion problem. There's something going on that's same thing. It's working too hard to break stuff down. So I tell them, if you eat something and you feel your waistline feels fine and you have energy to keep going, then that's a pretty good indicator that what you ate was at least good or decent, or a lot better than
your body's happy with that.
Exactly. So it's kind of like the whole measuring macros and calories and weighing your food and stuff like that. I think for the beginner person, I don't think they don't need to go that deep. No. They don't need to go that far.
It's too much.
Yeah, because then it becomes stressful.
Yeah. And I mean, people know. I mean, so, okay, well, if I need 4 ounces of protein or meat or whatever it is, and things are coming in a pound package, just get close. Oh, that's 4. Whatever. Just
keep it simple.
It doesn't have to be exact. And that's where so many people get confused and don't get me wrong, early on in my bodybuilding career, I did that. It was just like everything was the 1/10 of an ounce, and everything was perfect, and everything was perfectly timed. And I did the blood strips and the keto strips, and I did all that kind of, mostly because I'm science minded, not necessarily because I was spent that it needed to be that exact, but that was just, it was too much.
But also, I mean, we have like majority of the population at this end of the spectrum, and you're a professional athlete, you're a professional competitor. So it's kind of like you did those things because the small variables, they do matter.
Yes.
When you get further, I mean, it's, it can go from, not only the food, but like when you're a professional, it's part of your career, and it's part of, it's part of what takes care of your four walls financially, you have to control every variable. So I think it's I mean, I don't know, you can tell me on that, like from your X amount of years experience, like what do you feel is a healthy balance?
This is gonna screw a lot of people up. Okay.
All right, I'm ready.
So today, right now, okay, I am about somewhere from 8 to 10% body fat, depending on how you do it.
Okay.
Still have all my abs. You can still see some of my serratus. I'm defined. As soon as I start lifting weights, I get super vascular again. It just pumps, in the first 10 minutes once my body gets warm. Quick plug, when you're a natural athlete, this is what it looks like relaxed. You don't
exactly.
If you see somebody walking around like that, not more often than not, they're not natural, and I'm not trying to kill them. It's just a matter of a measure.
It's just being honest. And so people can know what to compare to and what not to compare to.
Exactly.
Because that's important. Yeah.
So if I walk into the gym and I look like I'm 200 and 20 minutes later I look like I'm 220, I'm probably natural, because you get the pumps and you react more to what the stimulations are. So just putting that to the side. Right now I'm the same weight within a pound or two from when I competed. Right? Maybe a pound or two up, maybe down. So generally averages the same. I'm a little bit leaner than I would be typically in an off season, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel tremendously better. I feel healthier. Because I did it so long with the diet, I don't pay attention. I eat based on, okay, I'm hungry. Oh, you know what? I feel this, so I know I need more fats, or I know I need these things. That's how I eat. And that's why I was like, you're like, how many meals a day? I'm like 3 to 7.
It's a lot different now than what it was.
Right. But the point is, I don't know. I can't say definitively could I have built it this way. But as far as maintenance and could I compete, I could get on stage 5-6 weeks from now and look just as good as I did then. I have that little thing called wisdom now that I know it's not worth it. But you know what I'm saying, as far as that. And for my goals anyway. I know some people it's their goals. So it wasn't as important as I thought it was then.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
I'm very lackadaisy today with my diet as compared to what I was then.
And it all goes back to the experience part.
Yeah.
So you have the experience, so it's...
Yeah. So it's hard for me to say that, oh, well, you can do it without measuring stuff, and you can do... I think that's not... I think the message should be, stop killing yourself over 1/10 of an ounce.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Focus on the basics first.
Focus on the basics. And it's like a lot of the people that, I don't train or doing that kind of stuff anymore, but even when I talk to people now, so I'm like, do not do it for your look. Stop giving a shit about what you look about or what you look like. Eat right, train right. Whatever that is, there's so many goals and things. Get to the gym on a regular basis, push yourself a little bit, and don't eat stupid shit.
Yeah.
And then assess yourself in 2 or 3 weeks. 100% of everybody that does that looks better in 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. They focus 100%. On the work.
Right.
They focus on the work instead of always... it's... Yeah, they're gonna compare in the mirror, even though we say not to. They're going to do it. Yeah. But I do agree with you as far as like focus on the work, focus on the activity, not so much only on the results, where you're always stressing about the result. Right. And what I was gonna say too is like, you did all of that work and all that precision and controlled all those variables to make change. Maintenance is a lot easier. Yeah. So that's kind of goes to where your message is not, hey, keep it simple and you can step on stage. Right. Like you do have to control some things.
Yes.
But it's your journey as far as like getting from, let's say, I don't know, starting point A to where you were when you did your last show. You had to make a lot of changes, so you had to control a lot of things. Yeah. But when you're at a happy place with your health and your physique, so forth, your performance, then maintenance is a lot easier.
Tremendously easier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tremendously easier. And that's just one of those things that I want to keep plugging to people. If you're new to it, you can almost do anything your first 6 months and you're going to get a lot of improvement. Mm-hmm. And it's your biggest struggle. Yeah. Your biggest struggle is fitting it into your schedule. And that's, a lot of, but that's kind of the deal there. I keep getting all these notifications. So I got to ask you, I'm flipping totally, right? Do you watch any of the stuff on Syria and the bombings and any of those things?
Do I?
Or have you?
The only thing I've seen was what pops up on Facebook.
Okay.
And it's, is it important to know about it? Yeah. So I look at the main key points.
Yeah.
But, and this is kind of like, I'm very, very, how do I say it? Laser focused when it comes to like my own personal goals and vision. What is it called? Like the horse blinders.
Yeah.
Like I put them on and I'm kind of like focused on what I can control. I pay attention. Yeah. If there's bombs blowing up left and right, yeah, you're going to take a look. But me personally, yeah, I really, really just stay zoned in unless it's like literally impacting me, where it's affecting directly affecting me, if it's my family, my work life, or whatever it is.
Because that's me. I mean, obviously with my service and all those other things, I mean, I've got all the indicators and notifications. And
no,
so it's
go
just
ahead, man.
just going poof, 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 poof. I'm like, what the hell is all of this? But it was, so I want to get your perspective, especially if you don't know. I really want your perspective on this.
Of course.
I'll keep it hopefully super short. I just think it's interesting to me. Global politics, it's so interesting to me because of the dynamics, and you have different religions and cultures, and it's very interesting. That makes sense. So you have this stuff going on in Syria. With all the nonsense aside, I'll make it simple. The leader of Syria is throwing chemical weapons on people who are in the opposition group, right?
Got it.
Be it civilians or be it part of the rebel faction or being these rights or doing all these things, which is basically people, you can argue all this stuff all day long, but which is why President sent the first round of bombs in, right? To specifically hit targets that were somehow associated with the chemical attacks.
Okay.
Chemical storage facilities, research and development, command center, all that kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense.
So the first one, there were several hundred missiles and bombs sent in, and the last I checked on this, 0 civilian casualties. Amazing. If that's true, if that's still true today, to me, holy shit, that's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
That hundreds hit their target and not one person died. I was wrong to say this. That wasn't supposed to.
Yeah.
No innocent bystander.
Innocent civilian.
Right. So it kind of leads me to my question. Do you think, what are your thoughts on Americans or other countries getting involved within Syria specifically, or any, you could say country X, that's having these internal civil war things, using chemical weapons? Death is death. If you're killing people, you're killing people.
Yeah.
To me, I'm simplifying. People get all bent out of shape when I do that. But if you're fighting your opposition, you're fighting to win, and sometimes you do dirty shit to win. Sometimes it's
survival
spying,
mode.
Yeah,
survival
espionage.
mode, yeah.
There's so many things that are dirty crap, right? Capture and torture, all these things, right? Is it our place to go there? I'm going to tie money to this and spend $500 million approximately on this mission to go bomb these chemical things to try to settle the region, when we have so many issues at home that need money?
Yeah.
Several states, teachers are on strike. All that. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So I'm not asking.
Man, I got a lot of stuff going on up here. So
it's not really a question of, is it okay or not if we go bomb them?
Okay.
People are doing bad shit to this person, and so if we stand up for the smaller guy, great. You can argue that both ways till the cows come home. But it's more of a money thing.
So it's, just to clarify or make it very, very simple. So like, I heard two questions in there, two main questions. So the first one was, number one, as far as the action taken by our leader to affect something else that's on the other side of the world.
Right.
So the action itself, number one, was it done? What are my opinions on it? Yeah. And then the second thing was, what are my opinions on the budget part, as far as like, we have a certain budget. He spent X amount on doing this when it could have been going towards other stuff that's affecting us internally in the country. All right. So you educated me a lot, because like I said, I know about the bombing, but I didn't know about the details. Yeah. So, and that's only, so for me, I feel like I can give a even better answer, because it's a straight answer. I don't have to think about it too much. So I see another country, keeping it in simple terms, one person's bullying the others, harming the others. And so we see bullying happening. And I know for me as a person, if I see someone that can't defend themselves being bullied, I say something, I will say something. That's just the way I was raised to, help protect as well.
Yeah.
Especially those that can't protect themselves.
Right.
So he did that. He was the hero, I guess you can say, to help protect someone that couldn't protect themselves.
Right.
Right. So, but then that's kind of hard to say, was it the right or wrong
Yeah,
thing?
and
Because morally, what is right and wrong?
Right.
Because we protect a small guy, but we also pissed off more than one person. We all pissed off about 3, 4, 5 other people.
Yeah.
Now we got to worry about those consequences. And then it's just, so it's kind of hard to say if that's like the right or wrong thing. Is protecting someone that can't protect themselves. Do I believe that's the right thing? Yes. Yeah. But looking at the consequences, looking at the big picture and the long term, what's going to happen the next decade, 2 decades, is it worth it? And that's kind of hard to say. Is it worth it?
Usually you don't know until everything's done and settled. You
yeah,
look back
man.
and
That's
you go, oh, that was good, or oh, that was horrible, or whatever.
That's a hard one. I think that's kind of like people have to answer for themselves. But that one's a hard one to answer. But my opinion on it, do I believe people that can't defend themselves, if you can help them, should you step in? I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
and our country's done that for generations and generations. So it's.
But then also, if there's hidden motives, then that's different. Motives, I know there's hidden motives, so I gotta prep it in first. But
I'm just saying, if there's 2 people being bullied, and beforehand that you can save each one of them equally, but you can only save one. But if you save this one, you're going to get an extra $500,000 in your account.
Exactly, it goes
you're
back to the money.
You're probably going to go save that one, even though he's a little further away.
Yeah,
it's just human nature. And people can
it's an investment to help somebody. Now you're looking at it as a business decision.
It's what I'm saying. So I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
What about the money side?
On the money side, it's that goes back to where it's as keeping it in a simplest perspective. A leader, I believe, a leader's job is to, and that's what the person is a leader, is to guide, educate, and protect those he's leading.
Yeah.
So is he guiding us? Everybody has their own opinion on that.
Yeah.
Is he leading us?
Oh, he's guiding us. It's just, is he guiding you where you want to go?
Is he is he guiding us, or like kind of shoving us in one direction? Yeah. That's and so as far as like, there are other problems, things that need to be solved here. So, and but then this is going to kind of go back into, we have even financial problems here in the U.S. where we're in, I don't know, trillions in debt. I don't know the number.
And that's a weird, we could play on that one. That's a weird number to play with because so much of that's internal debt, and it's only a matter of kind of reconciling.
Yeah.
So the debt's there, but it's not, but it is. And
inflation.
It's a weird math.
So it's, do I think the money should, or you know what, let me put it like this. Let me use myself as an example. Yeah. Okay. So I have, my house, I have my family, and then I see someone else on the outside that needs some financial help, but I know that, my kids need Pampers.
Yeah.
Right. So I got to take care of the internal problems. I believe taking care of the internal problems first.
Yeah.
The number one, personal, meaning like taking that, the leader being best prepared as possible, because if they're prepared, then they can take more action. They have more, they can think better, control things better. Yeah. And then the next thing is, your 4 walls. So, which is your family, which is our leaders' family is the U.S.
Yeah.
So I do believe that, there's those problems should be acted on sooner.
Yeah.
And then it kind of goes back to what's urgent and what's not urgent.
Yeah. And then there's a play, because like this, when I look at it, and everybody knows I'm pretty conservative on military defense and economy, but pretty either liberal or disconnected on a lot of social things. Does that make sense? Like a lot of that's like not my place. So this one being sort of military and governmental and economic and things of that nature, it's hard for me, because it's like, if you said, okay, let's call it $500 million, $500 million was spent. Could we have spent that here? Sure. What impact would that have on our teachers? Let's say every teacher in America gets a raise with that $500 million. When it gets to them, it's going to be about $1,000 a year per teacher.
It's not a
Is
big
that
impact.
going? nobody's gonna say no to $1,000. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but is it impactful?
Yeah, and
I don't know. You know, and I say I don't know because I'm not a teacher and I'm not making $28,000 a year to deal with 30 kids 9 months out of the. It's a different. You know, I'm not there, but I'm kind of like, I don't know. You know, like that's a hard. Like to me, it's hard because when you're like, we've got so many problems here. People who want jobs who can't get them. That's a problem. Now, there's a lot of people who don't have jobs that don't want them. We know that as well. And there's infrastructure issues, and teachers are on strike, and we've got all these things going on in our country, right? Which we all are aware of when you watch the news. But seriously, if somebody was like, "Here's an extra $1,000," I'm gonna be happy, but it's not gonna change my life beyond a month or two.
I think that goes back to the whole thing, like giving. Big believer in this. Giving someone something doesn't solve a problem.
No.
If anything, you maybe bought them a little time.
Yeah.
But it didn't solve a problem. So it's kind of like, will $1,000 a year make a big impact? I mean, we just got to look at the stats, and what is it? Three quarters of America is living check to check. So will, I don't know, 1,000 divided by 12, what is that? $800 a month or less? 7? I don't know.
No, it's $80 a month. Yeah, $80 a month.
$80. Sorry, $80 a month. Yeah. Yeah, what is that really going to do? But then that goes back to, okay, like teach a man to fish, you know, feed him forever.
Right.
So financially, if it's a financial issue, is it that internal household, how they use their finances?
That was what I was thinking when you said it. I'm like, well, how many of those that
because
$80 just making bad choices?
$80, $20 a week. What is that? Majority of the population is not only living check to check, but overweight or obese.
Right. So
those numbers are paired.
Yeah.
I think there's a strong correlation between that.
Yeah.
So, you know, what is that $20 going to lead to? Maybe them and their spouse's fast food meal.
Right. And then if they're really
not even gonna
smart with it, it's not going to cover. It doesn't cover most electric bills.
No.
In a month. It would cover most water bills in a month. Right. Water, wastewater, trash. It would cover that. But I'm kind of like, it's not going to cover even half of most cell phone bills. So I'm just kind of like, what is that even going to, what the fuck is it doing?
It doesn't do much. And I think it goes back to like let's look at what's really the problem. And I feel like a lot of people complain, or the complainers, let's kind of like, if we could put that as a category, the complainers, they're always complaining, but they have a handout.
Yes.
So they're like, you know, boo-hoo me, help me. And then when they are helped, they don't learn from it. They're not appreciative of it. So I think it's more of like a internal issue. Yeah. Now, if they were to use 500, I think you said million or billion?
500 billion or 500 million. Sorry.
If you use $500 million to, I don't know what the solution is, but to find a solution to educate people to take care of their own four walls better. It goes back to the education part, you know, because it always goes back to, you know, they're living check to check because high expenses. Why are the high expenses? Yeah. A lot of credit card debt, you know, so not learning how to use finances, student loan debt. Right?
Raped on that.
Yeah, I have student loan debt I'm still paying off, but I know of some friends and family members, and they're owing, you know, it's tens of thousands of dollars. Yeah. I even know some people hundreds. Oh yeah. And it sucks, you know, that, and you know, just so it's more of like, okay, there's a lack of financial literacy. Right. And so that's another thing. Will that be able to solve the problem? No. But then again, it goes back to those whiners and complainers. They really don't want to learn and take responsibility. Yeah. They want stuff given to them.
Accountability is key. Yeah. It's key. And I'm just like, you know, what do you think? Okay, have you read anything on the universal basic income?
I haven't.
You heard that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so it's been bounced around, and there's actually 1 or 2 states that are trying it. And I'm not going to say the whole state. Okay. And I'm saying this because I probably should look at it real quick before I screwed up. But basically is that it would massively reduce welfare and things of that nature. Everybody that is 18 years and up, I'm just generally saying this, so it's not super specific, just to give you an idea, gets $1,800 a month. Some $1,800 a month value. But now you got to remember, is that would eliminate things like the Section 8 housing, most food stamps and things would be eliminated. All that stuff's toast. Doesn't exist. because we're saying it costs, the cost of living is this, which is out of your control, and we are going to, as a government, say it is actually cheaper. We are going to give everyone this, and you can always waive it and not accept it and things of that nature, but everybody gets this, whatever, $1,800 a month, instead of the government spending for all of these programs and oversight. And does that make sense? Overhauls and all this kind of shit. You're just like, boom.
So instead of sectioning out the money towards certain groups of the population, I'll say it like that, it's spreading that full entire number evenly.
Universally across the board.
And if you choose to accept it, you can accept it. If you choose not to,
you get it. You just get it, but you can always deny it. You can always waive so you don't get it.
I mean,
does that make sense?
It makes sense. Do I agree with it? No. To me, it's pretty. That's actually, for me, it's a pretty simple answer. No. It goes back to like, do people need help? Yes. But I mean, it's like my grandparents, they're from Mexico. They kept working, they made it happen.
Yeah. And
it kind of goes back to and I feel like, man, we're going to touch on something else. Like when it comes to like immigrants, I feel like a lot of the hardest workers are immigrants.
Well,
it's
legal or illegal now. Put that to the side.
Yeah.
If you're an immigrant specifically from South and Central America, okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna say specific because it's easier to get here. Yeah. You don't have to take flights and things of that nature, so it doesn't cost thousands of dollars to get here. Yeah. From just travel, like it could cost thousands to do it legally. I get all that kind of stuff, but I'm saying just the trip itself. You can get on a bus or a train, or you're there. It's nothing. It's $20-$30 or free if you've got somebody to drive you, right? So it's easier to get here, but the standard of living, especially just south of the border, is so shitty. Yeah. That you're like, I don't give a fuck if I sleep an hour a night.
It's a whatever it takes mentality.
It's immeasurably a better life doing that than what I am right now. Correct. So they'll come here and literally work themselves to the bone.
It's survival mode, you know. So it's so going back to I'm using that as an example, or it's kind of like it's we or people want to call themselves adults, but you got to play the adult card too. You can't just say I'm an adult, I can go do this and that. It's like you're an adult, that means you should fend for yourself, and you should be able to take care of yourself and figure things out. Yeah. And it's kind of like I've seen people that, they buy a case of water and they put it in an ice chest and they sell them for $1 each.
I see it all the time.
That's their profit. Yeah. That's their way of feeding themselves for the day or whatever it is, opposed to just whammy, my life's horrible, whatever it is. Yeah. What's it called? So kind of to come back to it is like giving those people something where it's going to be like, that's almost like giving everyone the same job without the responsibility. Like they're getting the check without, and it's kind of like if we make it that easy on people have the people that are okay with survival mode. Yeah. There's no reason for them to bring value to the marketplace, to
because that's what I think,
society, to anything.
In one regard, I'm on the fence about it.
Yeah.
So it's one of those deals that it's like, from the negative side is you're potentially enabling people to be lazier and not to pursue things as hard and not do things. Then in the middle, you're enabling people to be able to take a chance and do some shit. Because think of how many people don't take a chance to do what they love to do or that they're passionate about because they don't have that little bit per month. They've got no cushion. So they're working 70 hours a week on 2 jobs or 80 hours a week on 2 jobs, however you do it. And they just don't have enough to be able to go, I want to try what I love. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
So then you're enabling those people to pursue it. And then on the high end, you're hoping that the people who don't need it would refuse it.
I think what would be better is instead of spreading that money evenly and we didn't even put a time period on it for X amount of time. I think it would be better if it was something like, I feel like 6 months is a long time. I'm just throwing a time frame on it. But if it was something like, hey, you're giving X amount in 6 months, but there are, and it goes back to requirements. Yeah. requirements for. You have to be able to show you're being productive with it. For those that want the opportunity, yeah, people do need help with opportunity. Nobody does anything by themselves. So is it a good reason or a good way to give people opportunity? Yeah. But put a 6-month time frame on it, and something has to be something where it shows that they want to better themselves. They're not just like, hey, this is free money and I'm gonna blow it.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
And then the other side, this is what really puts me on the fence.
Okay.
The other one is like, I'm like, you can argue you're giving some people opportunities. Some people are gonna be lazier.
Yeah.
You know, and then there's people that are gonna become lazy because you get all that. That's absolutely gonna happen. Where it puts me on the fence is the financial side. Now, I don't know the numbers because I haven't run them, so I'm going based on the several studies that I've seen on it. It's cheaper for the government to do this than to run its current programs.
Well, we know the current programs aren't working.
Right. And so our budget reduces, our national budget is lower.
Okay.
And everybody's getting this money. And that's where I'm like, I don't know if I like people getting free money. I really don't know if I like that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, well, if we're going to spend a shitload less and there's less bureaucracy and less red tape and less legislation, maybe.
Or it could always be a temporary solution.
Yeah.
It could be a temporary solution to buy us as a country time to find a better solution.
Yeah.
But if it's...
We'll do this for 5 years until we can create legislation.
Yeah, because it's one of those things. It's like, obviously this isn't working, and we've tried this for X amount of decades.
A lot of years.
It's almost like, okay, we know it doesn't work. It should have been scrapped a long time ago.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was no solution, so you always have to replace something.
Yeah.
So, but now there's a replacement. I think it would be better if it was something like a temporary thing, like 5 years.
Because I like, in theory, I love the idea of saying we only need to help those that need help.
Yeah.
How do you control fraud? How do you control abuse of the system? How do you control? And that's where a lot of our money is wasted. Because if people were actually honest about it, like I actually truly do need help for 6 months, and they get that help for 6 months and they roll, great. But so many people, they start getting the help and they're like, how can I get a job and fuse this so I still get that money?
Yeah, the whole unemployment thing where people get unemployment checks, but they're still working cash jobs, or there's a lot of, and people do, you do what you got to do to survive.
Yeah.
But that's a,
how do and that's where I'm kind of like, fuck, dude, it's a hard one for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I love accountability, and I love it when someone has to eat shit for a little while to get what they love, because then they really fucking work for it.
They work for it, they appreciate it, and not only do they appreciate it, but they know how much they didn't like eating shit, so they don't want to go back to it.
Exactly.
So it's a tough lesson. It's a tough love type thing, but it's necessary.
You learn, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
man, we're going good.
So that was it. Yeah. So we're just over an hour. So we'll do. If you're good, we'll cut it, man.
Yeah. Was there any other like points or anything you wanted to hit? Like, I felt like we hit a lot of good points. It was definitely,
I could go on for days.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we didn't go anywhere. I mean, we would talk CRISPR and talk actual politics and Trump love and Trump hate, and we could talk guns and science and food, and we could break down to the genetic side of markers and diet.
Oh man, yeah.
I'm not bad. We didn't even go to sports and education or sports and entertainment route either, man. It's endless.
It is
endless.
But I think it'll be good.
Oh, who's your pick for NBA Finals?
Who's my pick for
Who
NBA Finals?
What two teams do you think are going?
Rockets, of course. The other team, it's
on the East.
I don't know, man. Because you know what? And it sounds kind of bad, but this year, a lot of the teams on the East, I don't know. Yeah. They're not the same like they were the last 3 years.
When Boston was healthy, they had it. Well, now Kyrie's out. They're banged. So they may win this series, but I don't think they're going to go.
Yeah, so like Boston, the same four teams, right?
I think the scary one is the 76ers. Because they're young and we don't really know, and they gelled and they're just kind of kicking ass and nobody really knows why.
It's almost like what they're experiencing right now is what the Astros experienced last year.
Yeah. It's a very similar thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely, they don't know what to expect. It's not that, well, yeah, they're a young team, so it's like there's not a lot of history there, but it can be something great.
Yeah.
You know.
So I'm gonna go 76ers on the East. The West. I'm not saying the Rockets because I think they're gonna have to go 7 games.
Yeah.
With Minnesota, and that was evident because Minnesota is an excellent team.
Yeah.
They're the number 8 seed. I don't give a shit. Look at them.
And you know what? That's something I noticed.
Yeah.
About before last year, the Astros prior.
Yeah.
But also with the Rockets prior and what we see now is that I feel like, and you can tell the intensity in the players by how they move, their expressions on them. If there's emotion in the plays, you know they're all in.
Yeah.
You know that's the way I feel like athletes are truly, truly performing.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of them, like the Astros previous to last year, but also the Rockets I see is they wait to put their foot all the way down on the gas until they need to, instead of doing it right away.
And that's where a lot of teams fail. The Rockets are like, they'll go nuts for a quarter and a half, and then they take stuff off, let other teams
it's
back
the
in the
endurance.
Game.
Not only physical endurance, but the mental.
Yeah.
The mental
physically
endurance,
they're fine.
man. Physically, and it's like, mentally, if it's kind of like, if you're going into something to slaughter the opponent where you're like, hey, I'm gonna take this all the way, I'm sweep it.
Yeah.
And you could say it, but do you truly, like, does the person actually believe it?
Right. And that's why with the Rockets, my concern is I really believe it's going 6 or 7 with Minnesota. I'm pretty sure OKC is going to win, which means now Houston will meet OKC next. That's definitely going 6 or 7. We've already seen that.
Yeah.
Because when OKC turns it on, they play as close to a team can play to the old school Pistons, as far as rough and bang and bump, and they play a hard-nosed ball.
Yeah.
And the Rockets don't like that. They do well in the regular season, but regular season is shit. We all know that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. So they're going to go through 2 hard series if they keep advancing before they get to the conference finals. They're going to meet Golden State in the conference finals. Well, Golden State's got San Antonio, who's devastated with injuries and problems and all this stuff. They're going to sweep them. They don't have Curry yet. Curry's going to be back second round. You have to pretty much assume they're going to gel. And this is assuming everybody stays healthy across the board. It's Golden State. Who the hell is going to be Golden State?
Yeah, and if it's
because the Rockets coming off of 2 6 or 7 hard fought series, getting bumped and banged, going into a fresh Golden State.
Yeah, they're not going to be. I get your point. You're saying they're not going to be mentally and physically recovered.
They're going to be tired, yeah.
And then Golden State, they're kind of like.
They'll probably sweep San Antonio.
They're kind of pacing it.
Yeah.
So they have more recovery time, which could be a good or a bad thing, but it's one of those things where it's like, if you have, somebody, that did 10 sprints and they're fatigued and you come in fresh, who do you think is going to get the higher performance?
Right.
The person that's fresh.
Yeah. And so it's not necessarily a knock on Houston and what they're doing. No,
but I get your point. I definitely get your point.
It's just, if 2 teams are playing and they went through 2 7-game series and this one went through 2 4-game series, and they're rested and healthy and everybody's healthy, you're like, they've got the advantage. And I know Houston has the home court, but
yeah. And then I think that goes to, because I was at the Astros and Rangers game Saturday. When the Astros lost.
Yeah.
And I was talking about this to a friend of mine that's new to the sport of baseball, and I told him it's really, when it comes to like professional sports, it's not even. Obviously, which teams have better talent and work ethic and so forth, but it's almost like when both are elite, which team can make the fewest mistakes?
Yeah, it always is.
That's really
always.
What it comes down to.
Yeah.
So it's because that's exactly what happened. A pitch too high leads to a home run, which leads to them losing by 1.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That. Yeah.
So or fielding error or whatever it is.
Or
so
a team gets into a rhythm and you're screwed. Yeah.
Yeah, because momentum's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely believe in that. So, so whenever you let the other person build up their confidence and momentum, you have to not only build yours up, but pull theirs down.
Yeah.
So you're kind of working twice as hard now.
So tell me, what do you think about the LeBron hate right now? The flop hate, the hot, like he's
about when he hit him in the nose.
And he didn't. like there's so many. Like I love watching the clips of it where they put like 15 or 20 in a row of his flops, and you're just like, oh, because he scored 11 points, dude.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of like.
Is he checked out?
Yes, and he's in survival mode, to where he's kind of like, let me find any type of advantage to take, and it's like, when you're in survival mode, you do things you wouldn't normally do, or you do things more frequently that you normally wouldn't do, even if it's the right or wrong thing or it's cheating. So it's
push the rules.
What do I think about it? Yeah, I think he's mentally hurt right now. That's why he's doing his actions are leading to the actions he's doing. The performance is leading to where the performance is, or distracted.
I think my opinion is he's checked out. I think he's going to go to Philly next year, and he's already. I mean, he's been caught looking at homes in Philly, checking schools out in Philly.
Yeah,
So
and you know, whenever you, how do I say it? I was talking about the horse blinders earlier. Whenever you look sideways, you're already checked out.
Yeah.
Or you give it the grass is greener on the other side type of thing. You're already, because you're either all in or you're not.
Yeah.
There's no, I'm all in, but I'm gonna keep my options open. No. There's no. It's you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So if I didn't know that he was looking at homes already.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a done deal. He's mentally checked out.
He's done.
He's mentally checked out, and it's.
Because I told you I think Indiana's going to beat him. I don't think they're going to make it out of the first round.
Yeah, and you see it with a lot of teams where they're like, the loss record is already high to where they know they're not going to make playoffs, and it's kind of like, okay, what are the intentions behind the player? Yeah. Is it I'm playing for a ring, or am I playing to reach my best potential, or am I playing for stats? Am I playing for a check? Am I playing for multiple things? All of the above. It's kind of like, but you do see those players where that they're only playing for certain things whenever they're just being lazy, or you can see them, they're jogging light. They're not hustling from beginning to end of the game. And that goes back to the whole, they're not fully appreciating what they have.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of other people that are hungry for that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that the NBA and NFL, MLB and everything else is the way it is, because when people get comfortable like that, they get traded.
Your value goes down.
And become a free agent.
Yeah.
And, so, but going back to it,
I think he's checked out.
He's checked out.
And I think what would be interesting is, I know that's where he wants to go, but if Philly somehow makes it to the finals, and God forbid they either beat or give whomever from the West a run for their money, do they want LeBron?
Yeah.
Because LeBron's proven, we don't know behind the scenes. We don't know what goes on in the locker room. It appears pretty evident that he can be a poison. Like, he can sway a team emotionally. Like Kyrie. Why did Kyrie leave?
Yeah.
Is because, LeBron came in, and because they were a playoff team before LeBron came back. And
True.
Kyrie was still developing.
And you know what? I think that one thing, my old high school baseball coach, told us was like, you have that one bad seed, or what he called it was a cancer.
Yeah.
You have somebody poisonous, negative, whatever it is. It spreads.
Yeah.
In the same way positivity spreads slowly, but negativity spreads fast.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to cut it.
Yeah.
You got to cut it out. And if Philly does that, right, and they move up in a higher ranking and their value as a team is higher, then they're going to definitely either not pay as much, may not take them, but they have the how do I say it? The leverage is there.
Yeah,
they get
the leverage if that goes.
They can do that. Yeah, and if it doesn't go far for whatever reason, then they're a team that's looking for help. If it's temporary or long term help, but they're looking for a team. They're looking for.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do well. If Philly does what we think they might do, they pass on LeBron. LeBron goes to Lakers. I think that's the backup. In some ways, he wants to be a Laker. Because he'll get the money, he'll get the pizzazz, he can play.
Do you think that's one of those things that kind of like, I relate that to like the MLB, like people like one of the top teams, you want to either be Red Sox or Yankee.
Yeah, Red Sox, Yankees, Dodgers, those three. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's more of like for the title.
Yeah.
Or you know,
Because does he want to win a ring? If he did, he'd play harder this time, but then he'd want to go to Philly. If he wants money and he wants to set him up for post-career, he's going to go to LA.
yeah. And then that leads to where like, okay, and then he has to check himself. Is like, is my athleticism really where it was? Am I at my peak or am I declining?
Oh, he's declining. Let's be real. I mean, he doesn't suck by him. He's still top 1, 2, or 3 in the league.
So then, can you blame him if he wants to set himself up?
Oh no, dude, set yourself up, man. Go to the money. My deal is like where he is now. Go to the money. You're never. He's always going to be a step shy of Jordan, and that's just simply the nature of social media.
Yeah.
Call it what you want and stat this and attitude. Fuck all that. Social media diminishes athletes in today's time.
I agree.
If social media existed when Jordan was around, Jordan wouldn't have won as many as he did. He would have been traded. There would have been. That's just the reality of it. So to me, the wild card is social media. So he's never going to be Jordan because of that. So fuck it, get paid.
Yeah,
get paid while you can. I don't like what they get paid, and that's a whole nother discussion. But I'm like, that's the system, dude.
Yeah.
Go get paid.
I agree.
If Kobe got $21 million for sitting on the bench, basically, go get your money, dude.
Yeah.
Like that's. I'm not gonna hate him for that.
No, you can't.
You
you
know?
can't, man, because he has to. Goes back to what do you take care of first? Yourself and your four walls.
Yeah.
Before the fans, which it's and it goes back to that old saying, spectators pay, players get paid. You gotta
just as many fans in LA as he will in Philly or in
And guess what? 5 years after he retires, people are gonna be judging and looking at the next person, and the cycle continues.
He'll be laughing at the bank.
Yeah,
I would be.
Yeah, he'll be
like, hey, go give me $20 million to sit on a chair for a season, dude. I'll do that any day.
Yeah. So yeah,
it'd be good. Awesome, dude. Well, thanks for coming on, man.
I appreciate you having me.
Hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, I did, man. This was fun. It definitely flew by pretty fast. You taught me some things, so that was pretty cool. So
I just run my mouth.
It's all good.
That's all. I just run my mouth. But yeah, so hopefully we get you on again. And I didn't check the chats, dude. I never do. Like I've got all kinds of notifications and shit. I don't. And I'm bad. Don't, dude. I'm bad. Y'all can hate me. It's cool.
There we go.
Yeah. So awesome. So thanks everybody. See you guys next time. Peace. All right. Yeah. So let me stop this and then.